So when I came here to Kansas, I had a fabulous leadership role in the organization. And that was after having had another fabulous leadership role in the head office in New York City.
Okay.
And so when I was in New York, I was actually in a global role where I got exposure to everything. I was on the 11th floor, which was where the senior executives were. And I was in a global role and I got exposed to stuff that most people of my level of experience wouldn't have got exposed to. I was then offered this job in Kansas, where again, I started having exposure to strategy, high-level commercial strategy for the organization. And I must have done a fabulous job because after about 2 years, they promoted me to a different job.
Okay.
And then I ended up getting I got another job, and that time it was in an international marketing role. And it was a fabulous role. So again, I started working on brands, developing brands, and traveling a lot. But what really happened at that point in time was I was then just getting stories and stories of leaders, seeing how people were working. But for myself, I was trying to be a mom to 3 very small children. I was trying to travel internationally. And I was also trying to be the absolute best, executive I could be and leader to my team. And it got to the point I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just missing out on so much.
Wow.
And for me, and this is what I hear with my clients today, my executive clients today, it's about the price you pay to be a senior executive. A lot of people see I call that the trappings, the nice car and the house and the vacation, but they don't know the price you have to pay. And so for me, it started to be, is the price I'm paying the price I want to pay? And
nice.
That was when I started to say, okay, perhaps there's something else out there. So I actually got offered another job, and that was in an animal health company in Kansas City. And I then moved from Colgate, and this was a much more entrepreneurial role because I was developing a business from scratch. So then I was expanding the brand to different retail channels. So that was fabulous. But I then was asked to travel again internationally. And so I then started to have, again, the same challenges I'd had in the previous role. And I started to say to myself, okay, Anita, what is the common thread here? Well, it was me, and it was my leadership, and it was my ability to manage that situation. It was my ability to manage my time. And so I started to really question, how could I be a better leader? And that was when I said, and how could I manage my team? How could I get stakeholders to just say yes instantly instead of have like 3 months of conversations and barriers to success? And so that was when I decided, it was a chain of events actually. I started to really question my future. And then I started to literally investigate lots of different options. And one of them was like, did I want to be a therapist? Because I'd been really interested in helping people and volunteered extensively in nonprofit. And I was like, do I want to be a therapist? And so I met somebody who's the head of a nonprofit organization because I thought it might be nonprofit. And I started talking to her. And she said to me, would you like me to tell you about what it's like to be a therapist? I was like, yes, please tell me. So she starts describing what work she'd done as a therapist, working with people who had mental health conditions, were suicidal, you name it. And she looked at me and she said, is that what you want to do? And I was like, oh no. and she said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I really want to help people move towards the future that they aspire to create themselves as the best brand they can be as a leader. And I like helping people move forward. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and she said, have you ever thought of being an executive coach? And I looked at her and I said, well, what's that? And then obviously the rest is history.
Wow.
I started, you know what Google's like. So I think I Googled executive coach. Uh-huh. And then suddenly these things kept on popping up. And at that point in time, like I said, I had 3 young children. So trying to get a really good program while I was still in Kansas was really hard because they were on the East Coast, West Coast, etc. And then suddenly, thanks to Google, popped up Avila University executive coaching program. And it was literally 20 minutes from my office.
Nice.
So I started, the story is that I started learning to coach by going to school at night, coaching in the evenings, coaching in the lunchtimes, doing my homework for the university at the weekends. Uh-huh. And it took me about 1.5 years to really complete that certification. And then I would say, as you asked for the story, Don, what really was the pivotal moment was I went on a mission trip to Haiti, which is another story in itself for another day. But I went on a mission trip in Haiti and I stopped being executive Anita for a whole week. And I became fully immersed into Coach Anita, who was empowering the kids, because this was an orphanage, and a lot of teenagers who were then leaving the program to go out to the big wide world. And I found myself sitting with these teenagers, speaking to them in French because I speak French, and just thinking, this is who I want to be. I want to really help people move forward. And when I came back from Haiti, it took me about 3 days to resign.
Wow.
And so I resigned from my job, like literally, like, you know, and I was very fortunate in that the CEO said to me, no, you don't. You're not resigning. I need you. And so that was the beginning of the transition, whereby I literally started being a coach and continued being an executive and really started to develop my own business while I still had the safety of a salary, benefits, and all the rest of it. So I'm so grateful for the no, you don't. Right. That man saved my life in a way, because I think it would have been harder than it really was. But that was how I started. I literally left my work and then I started from scratch. I literally one day, I'm doing this, and off I went.
Excellent.
And that was 8 years ago.